Well, as it says here, the full scholarship for the MBA dual degree is available. This is the last chance, as the deadline is at the end of February. It's really important to have expertise and global exposure in today's world, so if you're looking to apply for the fall 2025 intake, there's still time. We've had a lot of people coming in who want to make a last-minute push, so feel free to reach out anytime for consultation. For the application, there is an essay resume, yes, and then an interview. Well, the interview is also very, tough, Haruto-san, and they ask questions from many different angles. Well, even after you enter the school, there is a lot of discussion, so the interview is really looking at your personality and communication skills. At Alpha, we have a thorough script for that as well. Well, the interview and preparation are done, and you actually meet with a native advisor. Everyone is already practicing hard for their English interviews, and many people have already been accepted for admission this year, but there is still time, so please feel free to consult us about preparing your application. There is a free consultation box on the top page of the website, so please contact us from here. I'd like to start by talking a little about Alpha Advisors. Alpha was established 17 years ago by Mr. Irie, the representative of DJ Alpha. He started from a trading company, then moved to Chicago booth, and after that, he worked at Goldman Sachs before founding Alpha. Over these 17 years, he has helped many people with their MBA applications, and recently, there has been an increase in students pursuing fields like technology, computer science, data science, business analytics, and financial engineering. More and more people are heading to graduate school for financial engineering. For those, in Japan, I'll be using some slides in English today, but I'll be discussing the content in Japanese. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in Japanese. So I went from a career in healthcare to the Graduate School of Education at Columbia University, and now I'm working on Alpha Advisors and Alpha Academy. I'm now aggressively creating online support for English, SAT, GMAT, RE, and other such measures, and many people are using them. It took quite a while for GRE and GMAT to get results, and only a month for the executive assessment. We've received a lot of really positive feedback. Yes, Alpha has been supporting you for the past 17 years. And today there are many graduates from HULT, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, BlackRock, and private equity funds, Carlyle, KKR, which has been investing very actively in Japan, and private equity funds. There are a lot of people who want to go into asset management, and speaking of HULT, it's all about hedge funds. Now we have Mr. Kuroiwa, who has appeared in many of Alpha's videos. He was almost our first student, with no prior experience. He started as a student who had hardly done any investing at all, and he learned everything about investing through Alpha. After that, he went to HULT and ended up at a hedge fund in Boston. Later, he received offers from hedge funds in London and Los Angeles as well. Recently, there have been a lot of people going into hedge funds. As for MBA graduate school, today I will talk about Haruto, but in addition to Haruto, we also support everything from choosing a school to actually writing an essay. We also support resume interviews and test preparation. Alpha is also very cheap, so we have been charging 1 to 3 the price of a typical MBA counselor, and the ROI is very high. I really want everything to go well for everyone. For younger kids, we also provide support for college and boarding school applications. Right now, it's the season for entrance exams in Japan, and we've been getting a lot of inquiries from families with an international focus. So, parents, if you're looking for support for your MBA while your child is searching for overseas schools, please feel free to reach out anytime. Yes, since we operate online, we have many Japanese people living abroad or working locally who come to us for consultation, so please feel free to reach out anytime. Now, I'd like to introduce Mr. Iwata from HULT International Business School's admissions team. He will explain about HULT and also introduce some of our outstanding graduates who are doing amazing things in the U.S. Mr. Iwata, please go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Iwata, and I'm in charge of admissions at HULT International Business School. Today, I'll mainly be discussing updates regarding the Round 3 applications, which are due at the end of February. Additionally, I'll touch on global employment opportunities, especially in the US, where many of you are looking to work at companies like GAFA, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, as well as in investment banks and hedge funds. So let me introduce Mr. Jizaki, who is currently working, and at the end, I think there will be various questions, so I'll address a few of them. So first of all, can you see the first slide? Yes. Today, as I mentioned, I'll start with an update on round 3. Applications, which are due at the end of February. Next, I'll talk about global scholarships, and finally, I'd like to discuss job opportunities. This year, 2025, I think the peak will probably be in February and March. And submissions are also in the 3-month period. So, yes, applications are at the end of February. Excuse me. If you receive an offer by the end of March, you will still be able to receive the full amount of the scholarship, which I will talk about later, especially the URL prize money. So, this is the last chance. In particular, this is the last chance for the dual prize money. To summarize, for round 3 in 2025, there's a final chance for dual degree scholarships. The second point is regarding degree guidelines. First, for those looking to pursue an MBA or a master's degree, there's a global season grant available, which guarantees a scholarship of $3,000. Next, there's an additional 40% scholarship available for those pursuing an MBA or a master's degree. Specifically for those who have taken the GMAT, there are scholarships still available based on your score, allowing you to aim for 50% or even 90% off. Additionally, for those who may struggle with English, particularly many from Asia, if you find the TOEFL requirements challenging, you can take a course at the language school partnered with EF. This online course costs $1,000. Yes, at the local campus, the maximum is $10,000. The guarantee for the EF Play scholarship will also be available for negotiation. However, as you mentioned, for those who are in both leagues, they can learn 100% of the $44,000. It's important to note that for those who are in the split program, it's 75%, which means $33,000. But for those who properly pay the tuition before the deadline, they can still receive 100%, which is $40,000. In any case, the deadline is February 28th, which is US local time. Yes, if you submit your application by then. So, if you're going through Alpha, the first thing is to get in touch with someone there. I believe Emmy will talk about this later, but once you do that, we can send your profile to HULT through the current link. At that point, the evaluation criteria are set at 95 degrees. With this, the initial application process will be completed, and then you'll receive templates for the necessary documents. Specifically, you'll need to prepare your resume, essays, recommendation letters, and transcripts. Once you prepare those documents, if everything goes well, the next step is the interview. Step 4 is being invited to the interview. There will be an eco review and a personal assessment interview, which means that each individual will be assessed. If you pass that, you'll receive the admission decision, as well as the results for any scholarships you applied for. However, the bonus is, as I said before, based on the basic first come, first served basis, so it's a fan power chart. Yes. If you want to apply early, the product will increase accordingly, and Friday 6th will also increase. Once you receive your admission decision, you'll need to pay the deposit for enrollment, which is usually $5,000. However, for this round 3, you can secure your spot for just half that amount, which is $2,500. This is the application process, especially for the Alpha program. First, you should talk to someone, and if they provide an introduction, you can follow the link provided. This is the reason for choosing HULT. From the link of Alpha Rays, first of all, Torpy, this is the flow of the truth. So, it should be just sorting. This year, 2015, yes, so-called student applications have also started. Yes, the first one is empowerment. This is, yes, it's a maximum of $100,000. So you can apply for this. This is a student loan that doesn't require a guarantor or a credit history. Actually, you will be assigned a dedicated advisor. So if you're interested in applying for this Empower program, I can introduce you to an advisor to help you with the application process smoothly. This has already started for 2025. So if you have received an offer letter from HULT, you can begin your application. So it's up to $10,000. The Project program covers up to 80% of tuition and living expenses. You can apply due to rankings. HULT is in the top 100 and is a fast-growing business school. Last year, it ranked 92nd, and in 2020, it was 52nd. Yes, you can apply for it. The reason is the rankings. It's in the top 100. This year, HULT has actually been featured prominently. Yes, it's currently one of the fastest growing business schools. Last year, it was ranked 92nd, and in 2020, it jumped to 52nd. So, when you look at all the top 100 business schools, HULT is highlighted as one that is growing significantly. So, this is a school that will continue to grow and be exciting in the future. Specifically, regarding the programs, especially for the master's degrees, there are currently 4 options. There's the Master of Management, MM, aimed at young professionals, and then there's Marketing, Business Analytics, and Finance. The last 2 are STEM degrees, which in the US allow for 3 years of work authorization after graduation. The MBA program is for first-year students in the MBA in Finance. The MBA program started last year as well. Additionally, there's the option to take the MBA program online globally. And for those in the EMBA program, there's a hybrid format available, which means you can do half online and half in person. This is a specific summary of MBA, and today I won't go into detail about the chair track. But as for what specific major specialized works it is, well, I can't go into that much detail. But like mustard, well, this track can be chosen from a variety of options, and then attached to, not only that, well, I'll talk about that later, dueling. For example, trading degrees not just for a year, but for 2 in a year and a half. That's a good way to make a profit. Here, I received some photos from a classmate this year. These are just pictures of classmates, but as you can see, they come from various nationalities. In fact, 95% of the students are international, so there are hardly any Americans in the class, making it a very diverse environment. Yes, students from all over the world are here, representing many different nationalities, and the age range is also quite diverse. There are people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and even 50s and 60s. This diversity is really captured in the photos, showing that this school is a melting pot of different backgrounds. By forming teams with people like this and working on projects together, we can all help each other succeed. Many of you want to work in America, while others want to work or start businesses around the world. So, we create an environment where you can connect with like-minded individuals and collaborate until you achieve your goals.
Will they do it?
Starting this year, we have an exciting new campus opening in Singapore. It will be available only during the summer, along with the New York campus. So, during the summer, both Singapore and New York will be open. Currently, we have 4 main home campuses: Boston, London, Dubai, and San Francisco. Of course, you can start from any of these campuses, and you can rotate between them. You can even switch campuses up to 2 times while pursuing your degree. In other words, you can change campuses up to 12,344 times, rotating around to study as you wish. One of the main features of HULT is that it has a very practical program. There are no master's theses or dissertations required for graduation. Instead, you complete a real-world challenge to graduate. And at the end of this year, of course, the theme for the graduates is how to use AI to make an impact on the current company and the world. The theme changes every year, but the theme that remains in the current business is the same. When you work with actual companies, for example, this year in the fall of 2024, we had specific companies come in. One of them was Xperia from San Francisco. And in Boston, we had Wells Fargo Investment Bank. In Dubai and in London, we have ABCG and the Boston Master Group, as well as HULT. Actually, there are also 4-year universities associated with HULT, which means there are consulting firms in London, like Lego SAP. So, these are companies that are active globally, and you can work with them locally. They are active. Well, specifically, they can do it. Well, you can do actual business with those so-called globe companies that go there. Not only that, yes, during the MBA Masters, so to speak. Well, your skills are also, yes, this is the so-called Coursera online for free. Yes, it's the so-called certificate or link to learning. Is this tool free? Ah, the station is paid. but the hard is free, while it's in stock. So, as a school, we encourage not just class activities, but also self-initiated learning. For example, you can learn project management through platforms like LinkedIn Learning, as well as generative AI, Python, and R. We've structured the program to help you enhance your skills while you're enrolled. This way, when you go out for job hunting, these skills will not only be beneficial for your degree major, but will also serve as a great asset in your job search. Now, moving on to the second point, about career updates. With this practical curriculum and skill enhancement, you all have been achieving remarkable employment results. Not only degree majors, but also all of these people. Their skills are also being promoted. All right, moving on to the second point, which is about career updates. With this practical curriculum and skill enhancement, you all have been achieving remarkable employment results. You've been leaving a great track record in terms of job placements. Looking at the latest data, 95% of participants find jobs, and for master's students, it's 94%, while the remaining 5% are starting their own businesses. In other words, many people are either getting jobs or running their own businesses globally. Well, especially yes. The United States is particularly noteworthy. Yes, what a difference. The most recent data shows that MB is at 73%. Well, that's 83%. But if you're working in the US, you can use the so-called OPT system to get a job within 3 to 6 months of graduation. The data shows that more than 70% or 80% of people are properly employed full-time. So, actually, I graduated in 2016, and at that time, it was about 50%. But now they have started offering STEM degrees and DIO degrees. Is it already 70% or 80%? That being said, the average for other American universities and graduate schools is probably around 15%, so it's pretty much the average. Yes, it's already 5 to 6 times higher. This is just for the so-called nursing homes. It's not the Americans, but the percentage of international students working in the US. Today, well, I can introduce all of them, so I'll keep it brief. As a representative example, first of all, there are the so-called G5. As I mentioned at the beginning, there are a lot of people who get jobs, especially in the United States. Well, the so-called. Well, G5 companies include Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft. Yes, the so-called X. For example, the very first one, she came from Vietnam and joined MIB. Her current name is MIMB. And she made her dual debut. She took the business cycle and first got a job at Tesla as a manager. After that, this year, she is working at Google as a project manager at their headquarters in Silicon Valley. Next, we have a student from Peru. She also graduated from MIM and took the dual degree program. And she landed a job at Apple's headquarters as a data analyst. Then, about 1 or 2 years ago, she transitioned to Meta, Facebook, as a senior data analyst. Everyone, being able to change jobs like this in the US is something to remember. Once you get your visa, you can switch jobs freely. First, you start with OPT, and then you can get an H-1B visa locally and switch jobs afterward. Next, the third person from India also took up a business with me. After that, we went to Amazon headquarters in Seattle. So yeah, I got a job. And he did too. He moved to Microsoft last year as a senior project manager. And finally, she captured the MV and let Twitter's headquarters do something. She joined the company and said that she was from Korea. This is just one example, so I think it's something like this, when you summarize it with a single slide. But, well, from all over the world, or already, the so-called G5 headquarters, to like this, yes, especially with the dual debut. I wonder if many people have focused on that. Next, we have a focus on asset management and hedge funds, particularly in finance. This is also summarized on a slide. The first example is a student from Peru. She graduated with her MBA in 2027, and the dual degree program started in 2018. Before that, when the dual degree program didn't exist, she managed to secure a job at JP Morgan in New York. So I moved to SetSuite, which is the largest trust bank in the United States. He got a job, changed jobs, and is now a vice president, and is active in New York. Now, the second example is a woman from Sweden. She actually graduated with a master's in finance right after her undergraduate studies, and completed the dual degree program last year. Now, she has been hired as an analyst at a local office of Goldman Sachs in the US. The third person in the taxi in Texas is from Armenia, and he was also photographed in 2017, majoring in finance, and got a job at JP Morgan in Boston. A year later, he got a visa and moved to BlackRock's New York headquarters. He's a vice president. But I just looked on LinkedIn, and he was promoted this month, and is now a director at the headquarters. So actually, I looked at Black at that pork store clerk, and when I said Haruto, I was already at the 30th or 40th. The only data I could find was that Haruto graduates were already at the headquarters. That's right. Well, not just Block, but these city banks have so many happened. 2 factions and graduates from all over the world. Yes, they're having lunch. Finally, the student from the Philippines graduated with an MBA and a dual degree in finance in 2013. He started his career at Citi, and then transitioned to Mizuho Bank in New York. Now, he has moved on to Goldman Sachs as a senior analyst. He is currently working in the city. And this is just one example. There are many graduates in finance, so I think we can summarize it all on one slide. If you don't mind, there is actually a chapter in New York, a chapter in the New York City headquarters. Well, the city of Halton is 70 cities, and it is a very large chapter with the largest alumni chapter in the world. They said this, and set up what you might call chapters, and they met regularly to network, and they actively shared information about jobs and how to hire people. I actually graduated in the spring and was in New York. So I showed up there, and they were very active, and we still have daily activities in the WhatsApp group. They are graduates of HULT. In other words, they are all international students. Americans and international students without USBs calculate the chapters and network with each other so that international students can earn good money in finance. This is one company in New York, but it has branches in 70 cities around the world. They have a good chapter. Yes, that's right. They are making great use of this in their job hunting and networking. So, well, that's right. Well, how are people using LinkedIn? Well, if you're interested, if you take a look at LinkedIn, I think you'll see some actual data. And finally, this is the latest top 20 good employers, which are also done in the United States. Yes, there is a list of employers, and since it is top 20, there are a lot of graduates from good companies. Yes, in terms of company names, well, GAFAM, which we saw earlier, is one example. There are also Apple, Google, and others. There are also the so-called good consulting companies, Accenture, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, and of course JP. So, well, so to speak, yes. Well. In global companies, there are a lot of people with HULT in companies that represent good results. So I think it's good data to see. The reason for this is that many graduates are able to thrive in the US and around the world. It's not just about the curriculum from earlier classes or the strong alumni network. The career team at the school is also very effective. What I mean by effective is that many of the team members come from professional backgrounds. For instance, some were headhunters or experts in their respective fields. I used to work in recruitment, bringing in professionals from outside. We provide tailored career advice to students, focusing on their individual needs. So, about half of the people in this red section are already from the beginning. Well, I used to be a headhunter for the Bosun Poster Group. I used to be a recruiter in the financial industry. I'm an expert in business news and so on. We employ people like that as career coaches at HULT. So depending on what you want to do and where you want to be, we provide one-on-one coaching, and they have a proven track record. Actually, in this alpha video, there's an interview with Catherine, the head of our top career team, in English. If you have the time, I recommend watching it. I think you'll find her real advice very helpful. So, here are 5 reasons why HULT is strong, summarized by the global team. The first reason is, of course, the focus on results. There are no advisors just sitting around. Everyone is focused on achieving results. In other words, if you don't produce results, they won't either. They are also very serious about their performance, which shows that they are really committed to their work. Well, since it's a business school, it's only natural that they produce results, and they are working seriously. The second point is internships. In the US, especially, students can start interning part-time during the summer, starting from May. This means that they can begin their internships as early as their first MBA summer. After that, during the second finger, you can also do internships. In the US, this is referred to as CPT, which gives you the right to work while you are still enrolled in school. Well, according to the data, Over 70% of those who switch from CPG to OPD are starting their CPD and transitioning to full-time OPT after graduation. This is the data regarding OPT. Yes, indeed. Yes, there is a visa team, and if you look at the data, it says that more than 95% of people who take othe then switch to STEM OPT, which is taking STEM D for 3 years. The local visa team is also very strong. The fourth point is that the connections between HULT alumni, as I mentioned earlier, are very strong all over the world and in all cities. I mentioned an example from New York, but it's happening everywhere. HULT graduates are coming back to the school to hire new graduates. And this has been going on for a while now. Yeah, so this is the easiest way to understand HULT. I actually did an internship at a consulting firm in Boston, and HULT graduates came to recruit. They even invited graduates from Africa for internships. So that's just one example. But many of you start with internships, and then the OPT visa support comes into play, which is happening thanks to the strong connections at HULT. And finally, just to summarize, as I mentioned earlier, the career team. Here is very strong. They leverage everyone's achievements and backgrounds, which directly connects to your job search timing. This is the main one. So, we're looking for the reason why the heart is the main strong one. All right, so to wrap things up today, I want to address those of you who might be feeling a bit anxious about your English skills. First of all, we have a program in partnership with EF, a language school, where you can access $1,000 worth of online courses completely free. This offer is available only for those who enroll by the end of February, and normally, this EF online course costs $1,000. Yes, whether it's for 3 months or 6 months, you can get the full $1,000 covered. Not only that, but there is also an offline campus pre-course, so if you are not good at TOEFL, ICE, Duolingo, there is also a pre-course on this campus. So, the period is the shortest 2 months and the longest 11 months. Well, most of the time it is about 2 months, or 6 months. So, if you use that, for HULT's program, especially the 6-month course, which costs $20,000, you can get half of that, $10,000, guaranteed as a scholarship from HULT. As I mentioned, you will be exempt from the TOEFL and Duolingo tests, allowing you to enroll directly at HULT. The condition is that you must first receive a proper conditional offer for the HULT Masters program. Without that, you cannot take the pre-course. So, please make sure to apply to HULT first. Yes, and then you take this EU course. And finally, not only this English, but also actual heart events for those who go to the local area. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, network job hunting for graduates and others will also start, so if you want to start early, please consider this pre-course. And finally, a very important thing. Well, this is the continuation of the GMAT scholarship. Eh? 50%, 90%? Well, it's just as it says here. Well, it depends on the score. Yes, if your GMAT score is low, for example, if you score a 600, you could get a 50% scholarship for the MBA program. For the finance MBA, you might receive 60% off. On the other hand, if you score over 700 on the GMAT, you could get an 80% scholarship for the MBA program, and even 90% for the finance MBA. Recently, yes, that's right. As I mentioned, there are students who have received those discounts of 80% and 90%. So, I think there are still opportunities available. If you're looking to challenge yourself by around October 10th, this is still a possibility. Thank you. It was already a knife team, but I was in charge of it too. Yes, everyone. Those people are already like that. 80%, 90%. Yes, they're already getting off due to malfunctions. I believe there are still opportunities available, so if you're looking to challenge yourself around October 10th, this is still a possibility. Thank you. To sum up, yes, this autumn of September 2015, Daisoland in New York is on the 28th of February. The US time application is closed for a moment, so yes, there are mainly 3. First of all, for those who are doing a pre-course with Alpha Gloy Season Grant Sazonal Guarantee, the long-term course mentioned earlier will be a long-term course with a long term of $10,000, and the last tax payment of Lueri is still the last chance. The full amount of $44,000 is still in time, so we're looking into various businesses. Well, we have to look at this. If you want to take on the global challenge this year, you have to entrust your application registration by the end of February. Yes, so that's all for today's update. From me, thank you.
Yes, Thank you. As you can see from the graduates we've had, some have gone directly into firms like JP Morgan or investment banks. And from there, they've stepped up to places like Goldman Sachs and BlackRock. This is significant. Especially when it comes to job opportunities in the US, or rather global job opportunities, networking is incredibly important. So, for those looking for jobs overseas or in the global market, this might be something that's obvious, but it's crucial. The fact that we have so many graduates at firms like BlackRock, GAFA, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Goldman Sachs is incredibly valuable. So, HULT has been rising in the rankings, but there are still many other well-known business schools out there, like M7 and others. However, from what I've seen at Alpha, HULT's strength really lies in its alumni, network, and the strong sense of community where everyone is eager to lift each other up. Well, I think it's particularly high. Yes, the students who just enrolled this year have indeed already seen numerous successful applicants from Alpha. Current students are voluntarily holding webinars and information sessions for those who are coming in this year, sharing insights and experiences about local life and job hunting in various fields. Even before they start, everyone is generously sharing that information and knowledge. So information is really crucial. When it comes to job hunting in the US, having access to information and a network, especially a usable network, is crucial. Other schools also have many graduates. At various companies like Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and Morgan Stanley. But what really stands out is, when I contacted them, they provided references and support. I think HULT is really strong in that area. So, whether it's for job opportunities in the US or back in your home country like Japan, there are certainly plenty of career opportunities available. Today, I focus particularly on job hunting in the US. Yes, many graduates are working at the top 20 employers, so I encourage everyone to take on the challenge this spring, especially with new admissions this year. Also, there are various schools out there. As I mentioned earlier, besides HULT, there are other options, so it's important to consider which school aligns best with your goals. Please feel free to consult us about choosing the right school. Yes, now I'd like to move on to some questions. What kind of career support does HULT provide? I'm aiming for a job in the US. That's a good question.
Yes, thank you. That's right. As I mentioned earlier, the head of career services, Catherine, who you saw in the Alpha interview, spoke for an entire hour. To summarize what she said, the career team has actually been working on resumes since before 200. They've been polishing them up, so that's the first point. So, you have to create a LinkedIn profile when you join, and actually, it started before you went abroad, and you can already apply for it in September. It's actually set up like that. That's because there is a fair on campus. There is a big fair in the fall and spring, and 4 or 50 companies will be on campus, so you can enter the information before applying. Also, there are regular workshops every week, for example. How to appeal in an interview. Yes, we also do things like brushing up on links, and we also provide one-on-one counseling for people like this. Each person gets their own counselor, so you can have ongoing consultations where they help you decide on applications or suggest positions that might be a good fit for you. This kind of support is available almost every day. This is likely one of the key advantages of being on campus, especially since everyone is there, and you can take advantage of these resources for free. Yeah, that's probably what you mentioned earlier, especially regarding the US. Yeah, I think about 70 to 80% of it is connected to major players in the US.
Yes, thank you. Yes, also, at Alpha, we provide quite a bit of career support. And since various circumstances come into play, I really encourage everyone to start preparing for their careers as soon as they get accepted. Please feel free to reach out anytime for advice. What combinations are possible for a dual degree? Are there any degrees that are advantageous for job hunting in the US? That's a good question.
Thank you. However, Today, I talked about the usage in detail, but the specific combination is, yes, here. First of all, in the case of MB. In the case of this year's 200, well, the track I showed you. First of all, even in the MBA, well, you can choose the normal Inveka Finance M. Then the track. Major. Strategy. Yes, this is mainly management. Or finance analytics. Well, you can choose STEM and marketing. Furthermore, as a dual degree, you can choose combinations like finance and business or marketing, which significantly increases your options. To answer your other question about degrees that are advantageous for job hunting in the US, particularly highlighted in red, finance and analytics are key. In the US, STEM refers to fields like science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, so pursuing a degree in these areas is beneficial. If you go this route, you generally have a STEM degree, which allows for optional practical training, OPT, for up to 3 years. As I mentioned earlier, this is essentially a pathway to major companies in the US, like the GAFA, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon. Most people in these fields are indeed working in STEM-related roles. With a STEM degree, you can work for up to 3 years under OPT, as I mentioned earlier. Basically, with a dual degree, you can aim for positions at major US companies like GAFA, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon. Yes, in urban areas, those who are in stable positions tend to be in STEM fields, especially in roles related to cooking or culinary arts. That's the case for the majority. When it comes to living arrangements, having a degree in finance or business is advantageous in certain parts of the US.
Yes, thank you. I think it's important to consult on which degree to pursue. As you mentioned, Mr. Iwata, I've noticed that recently, just having an MBA isn't enough. Many people are struggling with job hunting. There are cases where even graduates from prestigious schools like Harvard or INSEAD are still looking for jobs after graduation. There have been articles stating that some people still haven't secured jobs even after graduation. This has been reported globally. The technology aspect is really significant, and the school has such an advanced program that it's clear everyone is learning in a practical way. As I always say about Alpha, it's not just a traditional MBA, often referred to as a consulting school. It's an MBA that has a strong focus on technology, which I think is really impressive. Yes. If I want to work in the US as an engineer, would you recommend the MBA program at HULT?
Yes, thank you. That's a very good question. First, let me share some data. Among those who come to the MBA program, about 20% are engineers. They want to work in the US and are looking to make a career change. So 20% of the participants are engineers and 1% have already secured jobs. The remaining 19% are in roles like project management or data science, which means there aren't that many engineers in the program. However, based on my current experience, I see that many start in data science and then transition to engineering roles. For example, there's someone who began as a data analyst and was hired by a company, and 2 years later he became a data engineer. So while there are some who jump straight into engineering roles, many face challenges initially. However, based on my current experience, I've noticed that many people start off in data-related roles, like data science, and get jobs locally. Then, as you mentioned earlier, they often transition to positions like data engineer. For example, there's someone who initially got hired as a data analyst, and after 2 years became a data engineer. So it's not always the case that you jump straight into an engineering role. There are indeed people who do that, but many face challenges. The more common route seems to be entering a company, learning on the job, and then moving up or transitioning into engineering roles. There are some people who say that. The first thing that causes the most suffering is that I think many people follow the route of joining a company, learning there, and then moving on to a higher position or transitioning into engineering roles.
Yes, thank you. There are indeed a lot of engineers pursuing MBAs these days, and for those who want to move more into finance, there are options like finance engineering or computer science. So please feel free to reach out for advice. As you mentioned, there are many engineers in this field, and I believe there are various degrees available. So, are there any questions? That's all. Mr. Iwata, could you kindly please share the final deadlines and scholarship information?
Yes, understood. As you mentioned at the beginning, the peak for this year's application cycle is in the 3rd round, which is on February 28th, US time. So please make sure to apply by then. As you mentioned earlier, there's a special 3-year offer for certain individuals. The pre-course for the dual degree is still available for $10,000, and the most competitive option was the dual degree. There are still spots available for the full program at $44,000, so this is the last chance. I really encourage you to take the opportunity and apply by the end of February.
Thank you for your support.
Yes, definitely. At Alpha, we encourage you to consult with us first regarding the dual degree. We can help you with scholarships, as well as preparing your resume, essays, and interview together. You can start your consultation through the box on our website. It's in English, but if you're in Japan, there's a Japanese page available as well. Please reach out to us, and we'll listen to your situation. Based on that, we can assist you with applying to HULT, or, of course, other schools as well. We provide full support for your job hunting as well. We look forward to your inquiries.
Yes,